I've noticed Akira takes L's in almost every universe. This isn't surprising. When specifically looking at Yoshikage Akira, his arrogance always seems to get in the way of his victory. His stand killer queen can turn anything into a bomb. There's no visual indicators for these bombs, and they can be activated after a little movement of Akira's finger. The explosions are almost an instant kill move, regardless of what your stand ability is. Kira's abilities are amplified even more with sheer heart attack, an almost indestructible stub stand, which explodes when within proximity of its target. The dude even has the ability to instantly kill all those pursuing him, and the ability to go back in time. With this vast arsenal, winning against Josuke and his friends shouldn't have been so difficult. Things were going his way on several occasions in part 4. They would have stayed that way if he approached certain situations differently. Even if Jojo was a huge threat, Kira had many options that would have ensured he continued living a quiet life. Now keep in mind that a lot of what I'm gonna bring up would have required Kira to change the way he behaves. Knowing the kind of person he is, these strategies are something he wouldn't use for long. But let's use D4C for a second, and imagine scenarios where he could have achieved victory.
このキラヨシカゲ、自分で常に思うんだが、強運で守られてるような気がする。
Think about it. How did Kira get discovered in the first place? Well, simply because of his hand fetish. Kira has a weird fascination with them. He carries them around everywhere, has dinner with them, and talks to them. When they become decomposed enough, he finds himself a new one. He has no friends, so I can't really judge. Kira ultimately got caught because of a dog and a sandwich, forcing him to kill the bald kid, which then leads to an investigation of his identity. But what if Kira just didn't carry the hand around everywhere? Okay, listen, I'm not saying he should have given up on his hobby entirely, but he really shouldn't have been waving around the hand in public so easily. He even outright pulls it out in stores with no care if anyone would see it. If I was Kira, I would keep it in my pocket at all times, only pulling it out in private places. If he was more careful with it, the bald kid would have never accidentally taken it, and Kira wouldn't have been forced to kill him, preventing any investigation from ever initiating. Now, after escaping the biggest beatdown of his life, Kira decides to lay low with a new identity within a new family. Kira pretty much knew nothing about this new family, only observing the fact that it had a failing marriage and an emotionally distant child. Kira may have thought that he was blending in from the start, but he was doing things that would have brought a little attention to himself within the family, such as the way he treated his wife. These little changes in behavior eventually led to the son Hayato looking into him. Now I know it would have been extremely difficult for Kira to perfectly match the behavior of the real husband, but there are things he could have done to better ensure he wouldn't get caught so quickly. First would have been to observe the house and the family more closely, in order to blend in more smoothly. Kira could have checked the house for cameras and any other gadgets that would have caught any odd behavior he does. Since he pretty much knew nothing about this new family, he wouldn't have known the types of things the previous husband or wife would regularly do. Second would have been to actually lock the attic Stray Cat was hidden in. Seriously, why didn't Kira think about the possibility that someone may go up the attic and find Stray Cat? This oversight is eventually what led up to Hayato finding out the truth about him. Even if he knew about the possibility, shouldn't he have put Stray Cat in a more discreet place? He was pretty much the first thing people saw when they entered the attic. If Kira had been more careful than normal, he could have forever stayed within this family without ever arousing any suspicion, thereby continuing to live a quiet life. Bites the Dust is an ability that not only goes back in time, but also explodes anyone pursuing Kira. As far as we know, there's no actual way to stop the stand once the ability activates. Bites the Dust was used for the first time when it sent Kira back in time. However, it was used once again when Hayato went back in time. At this point, Kira had figured out that Bites the Dust had been used, but if Kira knew what Bites the Dust's ability was, why didn't he use it to his advantage more? He put Bites the Dust on Hayato specifically for the purpose of eliminating Josuke and his friends. He could have waited in the shadows for Hayato to spill the beans, watch them explode, and then undo Bites the Dust. Not only would all his pursuers be dead, but Hayato would never attempt to do the same thing again. Kira instead wanted to toy with the kid and cause them despair. Kira even told him additional information about Bites the Dust and allowed them to go back in time once again, which then eventually led to his downfall. What is with Jojo antagonists and making speeches? Before Kira met his fate, he had an opportunity to use Bites the Dust, Once Jojo and the others realized this, they attempted to stop it from happening. Kira had a good 5-second window to go back in time, but because he wasted that time bragging, Koichi took the opportunity to use 3 freeze on his hand. Hell, when Hayato first pointed it out, Kira had an additional 4 to 5 seconds to use the ability. Once he went back in time, he would have had plenty of chances to change the course of fate. Like I mentioned before, Killer Queen can turn anything into a bomb. With this in mind, Kira could have potentially wiped out all his opposition with this ability. This strategy would have taken a lot of careful planning and timing, but Kira's a smart guy, so I think he could have pulled it off. While everyone didn't know about his new identity, Kira could have stalked the cast, planted bombs on them by bumping into them or planting bombs on something they would have touched, and then explode them while they were alone. The timing would have to require only the victim of the attack seeing his appearance, as to avoid any suspicion from the others. Jotaro and Josuke would need to be priority targets for this plan, since they'd be his 2 biggest threats. Stray Cat would have also been an ideal candidate for this plan, since the bubbles are hard to see. He could float the explosive bubbles towards one of his pursuers and then explode them when they come in contact, all while hiding in a discreet location. Once again, it's highly unlikely Kira would have used any of these strategies, but despite this, we can't deny his dreams of a quiet life were still obtainable. Maybe they are still obtainable, wherever he's going.